lovelies. I don't know if you can tell from the light or the light that's cast that I'm out much earlier recording than I normally am, but I'm just super excited, just continuing to vibe into the vibes that I had yesterday. And y'all know me, particularly in the early day, like meditating and processing, just like wide open expansion, which I'm also just laughing at because I keep saying, oh, I want to astral project and da-da-da-da-da, and I'm just realizing my subconscious might be very well doing that already, because the openness that I experienced the next day is definitely something like really amazing. So, but anyway, so vibing into my favorite stories and how it relates to the question of blame and hope and responsibility. And now what I really vibed into was compassion, and really just being able to see these stories from a whole expanded perspective. And that's just, I'm really excited about that, where I vibed into and how their stories really make a lot of sense energetically, how they like kind of complement each other, and kind of on each other side of the situation, where Buddha, for example, his lower chakras were very open. Now, to what extent, obviously, is, could be vibed into, because, the question is, can one chakra be completely open while another be somewhat closed and da-da-da, or completely closed and da-da-da? All of that is, potential, particularly in relation to the heart chakra, which is very much the question that I've been vibing into. And in their case, that both of them shared love that, though it advanced for the time, wasn't necessarily as progressive as it could be. So, and even when they've, supposedly reached enlightenment, ascension, where their chakras completely open, once again, is a whole nother question or whatever. But anyway, point being that, Buddha's chakra, lower chakras were very closed. His upper chakra, his lower chakra was very open. His upper chakra was closed because of his life. He felt very safe and secure and had mastered a lot of stuff and da-da-da-da-da. His dad, however, supposedly kept the truth from him, like completely kept the truth from him. So his, I was vibing at least throat, third eye, and crown would have been to some extent, or if not a great extent, closed. And so that's where his going out and what we perceive sitting under the tree and meditating, not to say that that's not possible, that he was quieting his mind so that higher levels of intellect our truth could come in. What I'm also perceiving is very possible is he actually might have just been going around, out and walking around in nature and just looking at the world, just so he can actually start seeing the world as it was, unfiltered, unblocked. And so, that part of it actually opened up too. And the flips, which, totally makes sense in what his experience had been, and what he, quote unquote, needed, the chakras that he needed to open to be able to be fully aligned and open in energy flow and, reach enlightenment, which kind of goes back to the whole part of knowing our energetic imprints, and our nourishment styles. And once we fulfill that, we can reach enlightenment. That's very much a huge part of what I was vibing into. And then, of course, the other part of that is Jesus' story. And that he, of course, spent his whole life traveling the world, seeing the world, talking to different people, studying with different spiritual masters and, things like that. So his upper chakras would have been very open. His lower chakras, obviously, very close, in that he spent his whole life fearing being killed. So it totally makes sense, once again, why his ascension dealt with this whole concept of being killed and, da-da-da, and why also he ended up ascending and actually leaving, because his nourishment style, or the need, would have been to get physically away from those who were trying to kill him. Because even if he had ascended and came back, them folks probably wouldn't go stop. So I was just like, oh, that totally makes sense. Just like with me and the secluded island tribe, and it's like, even if I get to a point where I feel safe and yada yada, it still feels like getting away totally makes sense for me. Just like I see now, understand why Jesus getting physically away totally makes sense, based off of his energetic imprint in his life experience and that which was needed to nourish it. So yeah. And of course I vibed in even to the story of Rumi, and how his ascension or opening or Kundalini awakening, whatever you call it, was related to the areas which would have potentially been blocked with his life, being a Sufi imam. So as the story is told, Islam is known to be sexually repressive. His sacral chakra would have been quite suppressed, and his heart chakra would have, since love is not necessarily something that is expressed openly in that religion, and no judgment on anyone. Obviously no religion is really great with that, but in particular Islam does feel very, very repressed in that area. So it totally makes sense that supposedly his openness came through a homosexual love affair, that related to sexuality, it related to love and just being really open in those spaces, and so kind of getting past what can be perceived as love and all of that. So totally makes sense. So anyway, now got all the vibe, the backstory. I'm going to move forward to maybe an hour or two into processing into how that really relates to my own experience, and particularly moving from the concept of blame to hope, responsibility to compassion, and like that was like the process that I went through, and just really vibing into, okay, so what is actually compassion? Because to me, compassion feels like the combination of hope and responsibility, and particularly in relation to my own, being compassionate to my own energy. And I'm going to say it again because this truck just passed, because that's like a huge part of being compassionate about to myself and about my own energy. And of course, and just kind of vibing into, what that means in interacting with others, to level of openness and responsibility and da-da. So what just came up, and this is nothing new, at least even for me, I realized, I was like, okay, I've come to this space again. I realized every time I get to the space of opening my chakras, opening my heart in particular, I get to this space. However, I'm realizing it's not nourished and maintained in part because I'm by myself. And so that's, a whole nother part of it, which once again, definitely get into. Buddha, he had a lot of connections. He had his wife, he had his child, so there was also the sexuality. Who knows what was going on with him, and prior to him leaving the castle, the kingdom, prior to getting married, as far as whatever sexuality he experienced and shared, energy sharing he had with the women around. Even in Jesus, it appeared that his ascension, going down his chakras, his sacral chakra was very open by his connection with Mary Magdalene. Some people say he actually married her and had children with her. Would have definitely opened up his sacral chakra into opening up the last one when he was actually crucified, or his root chakra was actually crucified. So so I'm realizing this for myself and why maybe maintaining my sacral chakra openness as well as my heart chakra openness, even though I get to a certain level of mental, higher chakra awareness, they aren't nourished and open because of my current life's choices and situations. So anyway, in regards to compassion, what came up for me, it was quite simple and straightforward, and of course it's where being able to maintain the openness on both sides, this very much relates, where compassion is seeing both sides, seeing the divinity, capability, responsibility, all of that, while also honoring and seeing the actual slower vibrational experiences and emotions and reactions that we have, and honoring both and combining them in the heart and saying, okay, what is this experience? What is this energy sharing with me? And being, and particularly in my case, is very open to say, and being open to the answer, because I know tomorrow I'll have an amazing opening because of that question. So it's quite easy for me in that part. Now, once again, the physical part, and kind of like this, the kind of the concept in the meantime, on a daily basis, what does that mean? Because that asking that question, it'll be interesting to see if it actually changes my physical existence, or if it's just more higher chakra knowledge that comes through. I think that's the part that's been kind of interesting in, where as far as ability to stay open and all of that comes. But I'm really excited to at least have vibed through the energy. And I think the funner part is to realize that the answer is itself in the question. Obviously, just being able to ask that question is the answer to what is this energy in my heart showing me, which is to ask, hey, what is this experience sharing with me? What is the opportunity in this experience? And to stay with that. So I guess in a sense, learning or remembering to stay with that is a huge part of what the answer is. And then at the same time, I'm open to see what additional vibes come through and what this means for my physical reality. So yeah, y'all. So thanks. As you see, definitely my throat chakra is a lot clearer. I'm much more concise and direct in what I'm sharing, so I've definitely been able to wrap my brain and my heart and my different chakras into this experience. So thanks those of you who are vibing into it. Hopefully it's inspirational. I'm definitely excited, as I think this is the first time that I've shared like a full process going from the lower chakras, the slower vibration, into a combination of, I guess, going from the lower and the higher, and then combining them in the center. I think this is the first time that I've shared this whole process where I've just admitted some slower vibrations, and at the same time shared the higher vibration of them, and then shared the actual process that I go through in combining them. So, all right, y'all. Once again, love y'all. Thanks and bliss. Oh, let's see where we are on time. Oh, we were at 11:20.